Shamanic healing is an important application of a number of shamanic practices that incorporates everything that the practitioner knows to that point and can build upon in terms of their own experience and their understanding of how spirit works. Um, but I think what is most important about shamanic healing is that it really is not the practitioner who's doing the work. In fact, the job of the practitioner is mostly to get out of the way, to set aside one's own mind and one's own ambitions, one's own self-importance, and let spirit blow through and do what it does. The healing is done by spirit, not by the practitioner. There is a concept called the hollow bone, which is descriptive in a way of what this means to me. My job is to be as hollow a bone as I can, which means that I spend a lot of time clearing myself out so that I am available for spirit to move through me and to do its work without me getting involved in the process. Spirit uses my body, and that's fine. So it's not the practitioner, and I think that's very important, that healing can't be attached to the practitioner except that the practitioner has an ability to get out of the way. So with that in mind, let me talk about a couple of things about shamanic healing which are important to know. First is that we are all energy. We are all energy beings. We are here in physical form, but fundamentally we're energy, and physics will tell us that. Therefore, the work that is done in shamanic healing is energetic work. It is energy working with energy, or spirit working with spirit in the context of shamanic language, spirit working with spirit. So sometimes the healing is nothing more than helping the person's energy to flow more cleanly, more purely, more clearly, and to be more imbalanced. From a shamanic perspective, being ill at ease or having an illness is about being out of balance. Fundamentally, we're all well, we're all whole. We are flowing wellness all the time. The problem is that we tend to get in the way. We tend to attach to things, perhaps, or we tend to have a lot of fear, which interrupts the flow. So what a shaman does, or what a shamanic practitioner does, is to help the individual to find those places where they are out of balance and return them to balance. And that could be physically, being out of balance physically. It could be mentally or emotionally out of balance. It could even be out of balance with spirit, so that the person doesn't feel a connection with spirit anymore, or feels a weak connection, or is confused. But that's because they are not in harmony, they're not in balance. So the shamanic practitioner almost always is trying to find a way to identify where the individual is out of balance and to help them to return to balance in whatever way is appropriate to the individual and the time. A lot of the healing that is done in the energetic body, and often in spirit, often in the mental and emotional bodies, and sometimes in the physical body. But it's always done at the next level out. We have physical bodies, yes, and we also have mental, emotional bodies, which are larger, and we have a spirit, a soul, which is larger than that. So if you think about that, the approach of healing is to work from the outside in, so that you take care of a problem whenever it's in the mental and emotional realm before it becomes so solid that it becomes physical. Examples of that are heart difficulties, for example. If someone is having a difficulty with their heart chakra, or the mental emotional body around the heart chakra, then they may develop a heart problem. It's also true that you can fix the heart problem. In fact, it happens all the time, that an individual will have a surgery or procedure to fix the physical problem, but then again it will return later. Why? Because the energy of that, the imprint, so to speak, is still there, and so will eventually reassert itself on the physical body. So what you have to do then, from a shamanic perspective, is not just work with the physical body, but also with the energy body, so that the imprint is healed and removed so that it doesn't show up again. That's an important aspect of working with individuals in terms of their healing and energy. There are other kinds of ways in which shamans often work. Sometimes the problem that shows up is not necessarily from right now. Could have been an incident from the past, from childhood, or an accident as someone is larger, or abuse of some kind. There are a lot of different places where people can be injured in their soul. What happens then is that in the case of a car accident, for example, if you think about consciousness as flowing this way, whenever the accident happens, we often hear people talk about time slowing down. It's like time gets slower and slower and slower. And so if you think about it, it begins to form a curve this way until down at the bottom of this, time seems to stop altogether. And then it begins to come back up, time begins to move again, and then the person returns to consciousness. So at the bottom of this trough, you can think of the individual as having lost something. Shamans talk about losing a soul part, a piece of their soul, part of their energy, gets stuck at the bottom of this trough and remains stuck in time and space, even though the individual continues, and it will stay there essentially forever. What may happen then, as the person becomes an adult, they may feel something is wrong. They may want to do something, but they don't have the energy for it. Or they keep getting blocked, or they keep doing the same, making the same kinds of decisions over and over and over again, because they have lost a part of themselves that helps them to be whole. Shamans talk about healing of this as soul retrieval. And what they will do is they will go on a journey into the person's personal history to find the soul part which is needed at this point in time. So from the shaman's point of view, from the practitioner's point of view, they literally go back in the person's history, back into that trough, and encounter that soul part with the intention of taking it and bringing it back and making it available once again for the individual. It can be envisioned as a younger aspect of oneself, a child perhaps, or a representative of the person in that part of their life. It can also be thought of simply as a quantum of energy, taking some energy that's lost and returning it to the individual. It's all the same thing, it's just a way of describing it. There's a difference between the soul retrieval process and what we think of as traditional counseling, for example, because what a lot of counselors are afraid of is re-traumatizing the individual. And so they get to that point where there's a dip and they go, oh, there it is, and then they move on. And they get to it again, and oh, there it is, and they move on. And they get to it again, and oh, there it is, and they get on. But they just don't necessarily always get to the bottom, which is what is needed. They need to access that information. They need to access that soul part in order to return it to the individual. That's what soul retrieval is about, actually. That's the whole process. That's what it's for. There's an aspect of soul retrieval that you can do for yourself. Essentially, what that involves is your being able to go back to that place, to that incident, and relive that incident fully. The sights, how it looked, what it sounded like, who said what, how it smelled, how it felt, how solid it was, and do your very best to completely and totally relive that event. And having done that, then you can change the end. You can make things turn out differently. And then what's important is that you reclaim the energy of that experience. Remember, you've lost some energy there. And going back and just redoing it, changing the script, doesn't really do it. You have to also reclaim the energy so that you bring that back. And when people do this process, that I often refer to as recapitulation, and others also refer to it in roughly the same way, is to have them to hold that energy, to, in their imagination, bring it forward, and then to place it into their body wherever it is that that energy is needed. And so you can do much of the soul retrieval yourself. On the other hand, there are some situations that people encounter that are too personal. And so you can't get enough objectivity to be able to go into it, but also not be trapped by it again, if that makes sense. So at that point, you may want someone, a practitioner, to help you to work your way through that, or to do the journey for you. In this day and age, we are responsible. We accept responsibility for our lives much more than has been done in the past. And so it makes sense then that we would empower ourselves also to do this kind of deep healing. And at the same time, it's also important sometimes to have someone there with you to help you to work your way through it. The other aspect that makes that difficult is that significant traumas, you may not even remember that they happened. A lot of people that I see don't remember much of anything past 12. They may have no memories whatsoever of the trauma that happened. And so the practitioner, then, using their skill and experience in getting out of the way and letting spirit go and find these places and times, is an important aspect of the healing, so that the shaman or the practitioner is needed to access what one can't remember.